Hello, Teacher M over here for another homework help. Our topic is multiplying and dividing fractions and whole numbers. So, how do we multiply fractions and whole numbers? We just multiply straight across the numerator by the numerator and then the denominators at the bottom. Then you have to simplify your final answer to the simplest form. And when you encounter an improper fraction, you have to change it to a mixed number or decimal by using TIBO or top in bottom out. Now let's take the first example, which is 10 wholes times 1/2. When you see a whole number like 10 wholes, you have to write it as a fraction, and any whole number can be written as a fraction by having a 1 whole at the bottom, and you didn't change the value of the whole number because it's still 10 wholes. If you top in bottom out that 10 divided by 1, then it's still gonna be 10, okay? So any whole number can be written as a fraction with a 1 at the bottom. So here, the numerators that you have to multiply are 10 times 1, which is gonna be 10. And then at the bottom, the denominators that you have to multiply are 1 times 2, which is gonna be 2. Now we have an improper fraction. What do? We top in bottom out. The top number goes in, the bottom number goes out. And we all know that 10 divided by 2 is 5 wholes. Then finish up. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract down below. So your final answer is 5 wholes. So let's do some connection in real life here. For example, this is your $10. And then somebody said, can I borrow half of your $10? Isn't it you're not going to give the whole $10 to the person who's trying to borrow, maybe your mom or your sister? You're just going to give half of the $10, which is going to be $5. Does that make sense? Okay, let's try the next one. The next one is 15 times 1/2. And you know that we have a whole number here. So what do? If we are trying to multiply fractions and one of them is a whole number? You're going to go ahead and write it as a fraction. That 15 can be written as a fraction with a 1 at the bottom. Okay, so what is the rule in multiplying fractions again? You multiply straight across. So on the top, the numerators are 15 times 1, so that's going to be 15. At the bottom, the denominators, 1 times 2, that's going to be 2. Now, you encounter something again, that's what we call an improper fraction because the top number is greater than the bottom number. So what do? You top in bottom out, change it to a decimal or a whole number. So let's do top in, bottom out. So 15 divided by 2 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 15 minus 14 is 1. Make that bigger. Don't forget decimal and another decimal straight up. Then you may add 1 0, bring it down. That 1 becomes a 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract. Then you don't have any left as a remainder. So the final answer here, 15 divided by 2. As you can see, 15 is an odd number. If you divide it by 2, it's not going to be a whole number. Rather, it's going to be a decimal number. So the final answer is 7.5 as a decimal. Now let's make sense out of this. For example, that $15 originally was your money, and then your mom was trying to ask you for the half. So are you going to give the whole thing, the $15? Of course not. You're just going to give the half, which is $7.50. Let's go ahead and take a look at this $10 times 3/5. It's just like the $10 earlier times 1/2, right? Remember what I said. It's like getting half of your $10. Here, it's like getting 3/5 of your $10. Do you think the 10 will increase? Or we're making the 10 wholes decrease because we're just getting 3 out of 5 of it? On the first one, we know that 1/2 is less than 1 whole. Therefore, we're making the 10 smaller because we're multiplying our whole number by a number that is less than 1 whole. And isn't it that the 10 became $5? It decreased. Same thing with the $15. We're trying to get half of it, which is the 1/2 is less than 1 whole. Therefore, we decreased it to $7.50. So here, with $10 times 3/5, for sure the $10 will decrease because it's being multiplied by just 3/5. You may go ahead try this on your notebook. Now let's try this one, which is 3/5 times 15. Look at our first number is 3/5. So are we going to increase or decrease 3/5 since we're multiplying it by 15 wholes? Let's go ahead and find out. First of all, we have a 15 wholes, and you know we're going to have to write it as a fraction with a 1 at the bottom. Now let's multiply straight across. 3 times 15 is 45. 5 times 1 is 5. Now we have to top in bottom out because this is improper fraction. And we all know 45 divided by 5 is 9 wholes. Now we asked earlier if we're going to make the 3/5 bigger or smaller. Since we are multiplying 3/5 by 15 wholes, for sure we're going to make the 3/5 bigger. And look, it became 9 wholes. It's like your $9. And what was 3/5? In a decimal, that's like 60 cents. So if you have 15 pieces of 60 cents, then you're going to have a total of $9. Does that make sense? Of course it does. Now you can practice more with multiplying fractions on your journal by copying these 4 items. Don't forget to follow the rules. Multiply straight across and then simplify to the simplest form. And if it's improper fraction, top in bottom out, change it to a whole number or decimal. Now let's move on to dividing fractions. But what are the rules in dividing fractions? We use KCF, okay? So what do we mean by KCF? You keep the first number the way it is, then you change the division sign to multiplication, and then you flip the next number around. When you say flip, that means reciprocal. Like for example, the next number is 1 over 4, so if you flip that, that's going to be 4 over 1. Or for example, I have 5 wholes, and you know there's a 1 at the bottom of that. If you flip that around, then that's going to be written as 1 over 5. So let's read the rules again. We do KCF. So step 1, you keep the first fraction the way it is. The next step is you change the division sign to a multiplication sign. Then step 3, you flip the second fraction around, or you're getting its reciprocal. Then step 4, you multiply straight across because you're now on a multiplication of fractions. Then you're going to have another fraction if it's improper. Step 5, you do TIBO or you simplify. Okay? Let's have another example here. So I say 3/4 divided by 3. So what are we going to do? KCF. You put K here on the top of 3/4. Then write it right away. Then the division sign, you change it to a what? Multiplication sign. And you know these 3 wholes can be written as 3 over 1. So when you flip it around, it's going to be 1 over 3. Now multiply straight across. 3 times 1 is 3. At the bottom, the denominators, 4 times 3 is 12. Now this is not an improper fraction because the top number is smaller than the bottom. But we still need to simplify it to the simplest form. And the greatest common factor of 3 and 12 is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And as you can see, the top number is just a small number, which is 1. Therefore, there's no way we can simplify further. But this is the simplest form, which is the final answer. So let's try and have some more examples in dividing fractions. Okay, so let's have an example. 3/4 divided by 1/4. So we're trying to divide fractions. The rules, again, you have to use KCF. Keep, change, flip. So you have to write down the KCF. That's what I always tell my students. So the first number or the first fraction, you keep it the way it is. And I tell them write it down there. Then you do it step by step. The division sign, change it to multiplication. Then the second number, you flip it around. If it's 1/4, therefore that 4 goes up here, and that top number now here. Now you are multiplying fractions. Just multiply straight across. 3 times 4 is 12. Now the bottom number is 4 times 1, 4. It's an improper fraction. You know 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that your final answer is 3 wholes. Now I always love relating everything to real life. You know that 3/4 is like 75 cents, right? That's your 3/4. It's like your 75 cents. And your 1/4 earlier, isn't it 1/4 is 25 cents? If you're trying to divide your 75 cents by 25 cents, isn't it you're going to have 3 pieces of 25 cents to equal to 75 cents. So 75 cents divided by 25 cents is 3 wholes. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Now let's try this problem here, which is 3/5 divided by 3 wholes. So what are we going to do? Keep the first fraction. Keep it the way it is. Change the division sign to a multiplication sign. And you know the second number is a whole number, which is 3 wholes, so you write it as a fraction with the 1 at the bottom. Now what are we going to do with that second number? We're going to flip it around or get its reciprocal. So 3 over 1 will become 1 over 3. Now multiply straight across. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 3 is 15. This is a proper fraction, but we can still simplify though. The greatest common factor of 3 and 15 is 3, so let's go ahead and divide. That's going to be 1 on the top. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now, if the answer being required is in decimal form, so you can top in bottom out this. That's going to be 1 divided by 5. So 2 on the tenths, and you know this is going to be equivalent to like 20 cents. So let's go ahead and relate again in real life. Okay? So I really love relating these operations of fractions in real life, so my students will be understanding it more. So the problem was 3/5 divided by 3 wholes. But what is 3/5 in decimal? Isn't it, it's going to be 60 cents. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. That's 60 cents. Imagine your 60 cents divided by 3. Isn't it, it's going to be 20 cents? So here's another example, 4/5 divided by 1/2. You keep the first one, 4/5 is still 4/5. You change the division to multiplication and flip the second fraction around or get its reciprocal. Let's multiply straight across. That's going to be 8 over 5, which is improper fraction. Top in, bottom out. 5 can go into 8. 1 time, so 1 times 5 is 5, 8 minus 5 is 3. Make it bigger, don't forget the decimal points, then add a 0, bring it down. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30, subtract. So we're done with changing our improper fraction to a decimal. So let's make sense out of this. The 4/5 is actually 80 cents. You're trying to divide it by 50 cents, which is the 1/2. How many 50 cents are there in an 80 cents? It's 1 whole and 6 tenths. I can also write it as a mixed number. The whole number is written big and then that's 6 on the top of a 10. Simplify it. 1 and 6 tenths can be simplified by 2. Then your final answer is 1 whole and 3/5. Okay? So how many 50 cents are there in 80 cents? That's basically it is. 4/5 divided by 1/2. Keep change flip. You're going to have this, top in, bottom out. Then you're going to have your final answer either in decimal form or in mixed number in simplest form. Okay? Now, I want you to practice on these 3 items down here. Copy them on your notebook. Okay? And then follow the rules, KCF. Now, good luck. Don't forget to do your homework. I'll see you in class. Bye.